What's up, people? I'm Trey, and welcome to I Have Questions, where we periodically tackle questions that aren't the simplest to answer. See, this week we're going to be asking the question, how do we cope? As humans, we go through hard times, difficult circumstances, and unexpected events. And at some point in our lives, we just have to deal with it. In the process of dealing with it, though, we use something called a coping mechanism. And that coping mechanism could be healthy or not so healthy, you know what I mean? So nowadays we wonder, how do teenagers cope with their situations? So that brought us to Ronald Reagan Park. We're gonna ask some of my peers how they cope with their situations.
So the first time would probably be when I was in the 5th grade and I was in a science fair with this other girl, and it was the last round. Mine was on music, I forgot what hers was on. But I really thought that I was gonna win. My friends and family was hyping me up, boosting me, thinking I was gonna win and stuff, and I was just really upset.
One emotional pain I've been through is death recently in my family. A lot of family members have been dying recently, and it's just been getting to me lately.
I think one of the most painful emotional situations I've been with was last summer during the George Floyd situation. It was just a lot mentally to see your people go through that.
One thing I use to cope through it is working out. Usually when I work out, it makes me get better, and then I use the negativity that goes on to help me push better and get myself right.
Yeah, it was I had to get off social media and stuff, and it was just really weighing on me, really heavy at that time. I try to connect with my emotions. It's better for me and healthier mentally for me to do that.
So I generally try to just ignore my emotions because I feel like I'm an overthinker. I feel like sometimes maybe what I'm feeling is just too much. Maybe I'm not really processing it.
Usually, I just ignore them.
I've tried it where I'll ignore my emotions, and it's not really a good way to handle tough situations.
Whenever I hold stuff in, I blow up, over little things. So I try to just deal with them head on.
Really, I don't like to dwell on negativity. I like to stay positive, keep my head up. So yeah, I say I just push my way, see.
I feel like you should know if the way you're coping is good or not. It depends on how you feel after the fact that the situation happened. If you're still thinking about it and it's still on your mind, then clearly you didn't deal with it.
I think we all know subconsciously what's healthy for us and what's not healthy for us. You don't need a nutritional expert to know that it's not healthy to eat hot Cheetos for breakfast or something like that.
If you tend to maybe lash out on people, then you clearly didn't deal with it the right way because you're still thinking about it, still on your mind, you haven't really gotten over it. And you'll know if it's a positive thing because you'll feel more peace of mind with your decision, you'll feel better about the situation, and you'll get a more positive outlook on what happened.
Usually I know if what I'm coping through is good for me, if it's actually benefiting me, it helping me move forward. I know some people, they cope badly, and you know if you cope badly if it's affecting you negatively, and if it's bad for you and mental health, all that stuff. But usually I cope with just being positive and stuff.
If you were coping with the situation, you get in that relationship but you know that you're not mentally ready for that, it's not good for you. So we just have to decipher whether it's good or bad and just use your inner voice. I think a good way to deal with situations, just the best way you talk about it is really a good way to deal with that, to get it all out.
So I'll probably tell her maybe take a walk, think about what happened, think about how you want to react to it.
It's not always on your mind, and you can really channel what you're feeling.
Maybe meditate, pray, maybe listen to music, just tone everything out, be in a room by yourself.
And if you are the introspective type of person, listening to music is a great way.
Maybe go somewhere and scream, just let out everything, let all out your frustrations, your worries, everything like that.
Hanging out with your friends, just get your mind off the situation and make yourself feel better.
All right, boom. So there you have it. You've seen different situations and a variety of teenagers go through those situations and how they cope with them. But, no, don't leave yet. Mental health is a very important factor. So we wanted to give you all sound advice on how to assess it professionally. That's why we have a therapist, and they're back at the studio. Let's turn this over to Shonda.
Thanks so much, Trey. I have a special guest here with me today. I have my friend Yeda, who is a therapist, and she's just stopping by to kind of give us some healthy ways to cope and also kind of talk about some unhealthy ways so that we can just learn how to manage things a little better. So thank you so much for coming on with us. In the video that we watched earlier, Traylon asked a question about how individuals cope, and he named a few responses. He gave them suggestion of, I'm someone who connects with my feelings well. I'm someone who is overwhelmed with my feelings. Or are you someone who just hides them, doesn't pay attention to them? In your experience when working with individuals, what is it that you see as most common?
So based on just the years of doing this, I've noticed that most people find themselves disconnecting. So disassociating from themselves, disassociating from others. And what does that look like? Sometimes what it looks like is not being able to kind of identify how you feel, feeling numb, or just being unaware of your surroundings and not being able to connect with others, or not being able to make friends because you're just not capable of having those intimate relationships, those intimate conversations. So not being willing to open up to others. That's what I've noticed are the most common responses to trauma.
Yeah, I think even in the video, there were one or two kids that even kind of talked about that, and they were just saying, hey, I shut down, or, I don't want to necessarily do that, but that's kind of where I seem to go. Typically, in your experience as well, what have you seen the outcome of that be? So if I'm someone who is a shutdown kind of person, and, I don't connect well with others, I don't have great interpersonal skills with others, what are some of the results of that you've kind of seen?
The most common one is fear. Fear kind of bleeds out into everything that you do. So not being able to really pursue your passions, your dreams. So it's kind of living in a shell and not being able to get out of the shell. So that's one. When it comes to other people, it's just not trusting. Again, fear. So not being able to trust others out of the fear that if you do, they're going to hurt you. So why am I going to trust you? You're only going to abandon me. You're only going to hurt me. I'm not going to let you in. And also disconnection to self, to your body.
Yeah.
So a lot of people think that self-harm means I'm going to cut. Sometimes self-harm is something like engaging in a behavior that is not necessarily healthy. For example, being on social media for hours and hours on end.
Yeah, it's a real thing.
Yeah, if you catch yourself on TikTok just scrolling and just like for hours and hours and hours because you don't want to talk to other people, using that as a form of disconnection. So those are some of the behaviors.
Yeah, I think the social media one may be a really popular coping mechanism for some people. I actually know a young adult who does that. And because they don't want to deal with whatever the emotion is of the situation that they've experienced, she has the tendency to go on social media, and she'll just scroll on social media for hours and hours. And she'll say, it's at some point in time, I really have nothing else to look for on here. I'm just on here scrolling and scrolling. So I definitely know that to be a true fact. So what we want to do today is we want to, as well as, talking about the unhealthy, we want to kind of give some healthy ways for individuals to cope. Yeah, so we're going to look at someone, Jeremiah, who's actually the writer of Lamentations, and he has, he's kind of going through some stuff in there, and we're going to look at how he copes. I think he offers some good things for us to be able to piggyback on and kind of discuss a little bit. So I'm going to read really quickly Lamentations 3 and 19, and it says, "The thought of my suffering and homelessness is bitter beyond words. I will never forget this awful time as I grieve over my loss, yet I still dare to hope when I remember this." And so one of the first things that I jumps out to me about the scripture with Jeremiah, and it kind of piggybacks off of what you were saying when people don't kind of deal with it and they kind of push those things aside, is he does the opposite of that. He brings it forth, and he's like, you know, I'm bringing these feelings and emotions out. I'm not hiding them. This is what's happening in my life. Can you kind of talk about the value in really bringing, what does it do for us to not put our feelings aside, to not, you know, stick them away, but to kind of confront it head on, to kind of have those tough conversations to, and this is like a big thing, to allow ourselves to actually feel. Like, what is the value in that?
So I think one of the things, especially with Jeremiah, the reason why he is who he is in the Bible, right, is because he acted the opposite of how he felt. So when you're grieving is the loss of something, normally it develops some sort of fear inside you. And again, back to that fear space, like acting out of fear comes and it bleeds into a lot of different aspects of our lives. Not being able to connect to yourself is one of them. Dissociation to self as a response of something tragic happening in your life is a trauma response. Why do I say that Jeremiah was the opposite of that? Because he just said it, in that he's like, I am grieving, I was homeless, this is terrible. And instead of hiding out or using some sort of substance or way to kind of get out of his feelings, he embraced them. So what I would say is radical acceptance. It's the idea of embracing the present, the moment for what it is, as it is, mind, body, soul. And that is really what combats that space of being fearful, because our fear wants to hold us back and dissociate us from ourselves and from others. So acceptance of what is happening is giving yourself permission to say, I am sad, and that's okay.
Why do you think that's so hard to do? Like, sometimes even for me, like, to be like, yeah, this is how I feel right now. And me acknowledging that it is okay for me to feel that way. It can really be a difficult thing.
Accountability.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
Most people run away from the reality or the present because if you acknowledge it, if you sit with it long enough, you find out that there's something heavier and something bigger. Like, for example, have you ever felt angry? If you sit with your anger long enough, you'll realize that maybe you're just hurt. Or maybe you're just scared of something. So once you realize that you can't unsee and you can't unhear and you can't unthink what you already thought. So it brings accountability. What do I do afterwards? So if you accept that something is happening, that means you now are responsible for doing something about it.
Absolutely.
Most people are not ready for that. And this is why it's just better to live in denial for some.
Yeah. Great answer. A second part of this that I think is great about what Jeremiah does, and I'll reread it. He says in one of the verses about, great is his faithfulness, his mercies begin afresh each day. I think that in here, despite what he's going through, he finds hope. He understands that every day that he gets an opportunity to get up, he gets another shot. There's still always hope. There's still a fresh new day. God's promises are still there. So I get an opportunity to get it right every day. And so how important is it for us to, when we, you know, have situations and experiences in our life, to be just hopeful?
It's important, but it's also difficult.
Okay.
It's a simple concept, but hard to execute, right? Because hopefulness means that I am choosing to do something different than what I feel. Sounds simple, but how hard is it to practice?
Right.
Sometimes I feel sad, I feel whatever I feel. I just want to wallow in my feelings. Give me the Ben & Jerry's. Give me what, like, I don't want to go out. I don't want to meet people. I don't want to talk to anybody. No, I don't want to do any of that. It's acting differently than how you feel. Simple concept, hard to execute.
Very much so. So again, two things that I saw was just being hopeful and him facing and just sitting in his feelings and acknowledging his feelings. When we talk about, in our audiences, just young teenagers and even young adults, what would you say are some additional things, like kind of practical things that we could kind of give to kind of help just cope a little better with experiences and situations in life?
Number one is accept. Simple, but hard.
Mm-hmm.
So accept whatever it is that's happening. Healing does not come if you don't accept that you are hurt. So that's the first one I would say. The second one is act the opposite of how you feel.
It's good.
You feel like you don't want to talk to people, you don't want to reach out, you kind of just want to isolate, chances are you need to do the opposite of that.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be reaching out, seek the support of others. And third, play the tape all the way through. It's this idea of, okay, if you're already there, you're sad,
Mm-hmm.
ask yourself, if I continue down this path, what is it that I'm seeking? Play it all the way out.
Mm-hmm.
And don't tell yourself stories that aren't real.
Mm-hmm.
That's not helpful either.
So-
Just be honest with yourself.
Yeah. So when you say play it out, is there like a example that, because I know like we may have some young teenagers watching and they're like, well, what do you mean play it out? Like what does that look like? And so, hey, A is happening, B is happening. I'm predicting DC, so on, so on, so forth. Like, how does that?
Right. So let's see. Let me think about something. Let's say that you're someone who grew up in a household with your mom and dad,
Mm-hmm.
and you recently found out that your mom and dad were getting a divorce.
Mm-hmm.
And then your mom and dad sit you down and they ask you like, okay, honey, the day's gonna come, we're not gonna live in the same house and you're gonna have to pick who you're gonna live with.
Mm-hmm.
There's gonna be a lot of emotions that come with that moment.
Right.
But things will never get better if you don't accept that it is happening.
Mm-hmm.
So that, right? Then there's that really hard piece of like, what do I do now?
Mm-hmm.
Who do I go with? What does this mean for me? Like, if I choose my mom, does it mean that my dad's not gonna love me anymore? Maybe he's gonna feel like I love my mom more than him, or vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
So play it all the way out. Acknowledge your feelings and acknowledge like, okay, if I do this, what are the consequences? If I do that, what are the consequences? But no matter what you choose, understand that there will always be consequences. And also remembering, and I think this is important to kind of bring out, is everything comes with a price.
Yep.
No matter what choice you make, and no matter, despite the consequences, there is a price you will pay for whatever it is you chose. It's just up to you what it is that you want to pay.
Mm-hmm. The route you want to take.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay, good stuff, good stuff. Hey, listen up, guys. I know that we all have situations, we all have experiences that we deal with, and some of them are harder than others. Some of them we feel like we just can't get through. Sometimes, as Miss Yeda was saying, we have like unhealthy ways of coping. We just don't want to face the situation. We don't want to have that accountability, and we don't want to have to choose. So sometimes we turn to things like smoking. Sometimes we do things like, have sex with multiple partners, just various things that we do to try to cope that are unhealthy. Hey, I want to challenge you guys to change that narrative in your life. I want to challenge you guys to, play this over and over again and pull out some things that Ms. Yeda shared, and look at the life of Jeremiah and how he handled his situation in Lamentations, and just challenge yourself to do things a little differently. I want to thank you, Ms. Yeda, so much for giving us some great tips for our kids. I think you guys got some great information, and it is my prayer that you take some of these nuggets and stick them in your pocket and use them when situations and experiences come, because as sure as you live, and you will have tough situations sometimes. Let us pray for you guys, and then we have a special treat for you. God, thank you so much for Ms. Yeda, and just allowing us to sit and just talk about healthy ways to cope. God, sometimes, God, we're like, hey, I know all I need is God, and God will fix this, and God, but I believe that God gives us therapists and gives us people who can help us work through various situations in our lives. And so, God, we thank you for that. And God, we thank you for the avenues that you give us and you put in front of us to help us be able to cope and maneuver throughout life better in a more healthy way. God, we love you and we honor you. And it is in your son's name that we do pray and give thanks. Amen.
Seem to win all these crazy thoughts and feelings. It's like I never ends until your voice breaks through the noise. And I know I'm not alone. I'm not alone. You will fight my battles if I will just be still. Why would I keep running when you're right here? I'll just be quiet and let you speak through the silence. Here I am, no more fighting. You are in this moment, I won't fight it. I'll be quiet. I don't need to know what comes next. Tomorrow's in your hands. I can trust you with my future, 'cause you're already there. I hear your voice call me forward, and I know I'm not alone. I'm not alone. Away with the distractions. I wanna hear what's true. The only thing that matters, that come from you. So I'll just be quiet and let you speak